The Burgess Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation empowers students to learn through action by providing campus-wide programs, courses, and resources to test ideas, foster an entrepreneurial mindset, develop empathy, and create new ventures. Learn more at eship.msu.edu.
This episode of the Hedgecast is brought to you by the MSU Entrepreneurship Association. The MSU EA is a registered student organization open to all majors who are passionate about entrepreneurship. Find out more at msuea.org.
Hi, I'm Paul Jakes, Managing Director of Venture Creation at the Burgess Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation.
I'm Aubrey Hass, Events and Project Coordinator for the Burgess Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation.
And we had an amazing startup weekend this last weekend, which was our first virtual, and it turned out great.
Over 100 participants between mentors, students, judges.
With our mentors and our judges, it was amazing this time because the virtual side of it, we had individuals from the West Coast, East Coast, and the Midwest. So it's pretty interesting to have these judges getting involved. Companies like Twitter, TikTok, and different areas were part of our judging process. So it was pretty amazing to have for a startup weekend.
We had 14 teams pitch great ideas.
And really push to that last pitch at the very end where we had 3 top winners.
Our first place winner, which was Blendmates, received $500. Our second place winner was TLC, Thermal Line Coating. They received $250. And our third place winner was Med Mentor, and they received $100 as a team.
If you missed our first session, the next session is coming up. You have to get your idea submitted by October 30th, and the event will be on November 6th and 7th.
Or you can participate in the spring on February 12th and 13th, or April 9th and 10th.
So join us.
And we hope to see you there. This past week, we hosted our second Innovate State event with Kelly Ford, Tamara Steffens, and Chris Thomas. If you'd like to be a part of the next conversation, join us on October 20th at 7 p.m. for Innovate State with Melissa Mackey or Mac. You can learn more and register at eship.msu.edu. If you're interested in joining a student organization, please do. Women in Entrepreneurship, the Entrepreneurship Association, Design for America, and the MBA Entrepreneurship Association are accepting new members all semester and have their semester events live and posted on eship.msu.edu. Join us next time.
Bet. My name is Chris Sell, and I work as part of the Burgess Institute for Entrepreneurship Innovation here at Michigan State University, and welcome to our second Innovate State of the fall 2020 semester. I am pleased to be welcoming folks from across Michigan and, like we were saying earlier, from across the country to watch tonight's presentation. Before we get started and before I turn it over to my colleague, Paul Jakes, who will moderate tonight's fireside chat, just want to give a couple of quick reminders about upcoming programming and events. Thanks also to our sponsors, the MSU Alumni Office, the MSU Foundation, and the Innovation Center for partnering with us to make events like Innovate State possible. And make sure if you are watching tonight and you're not already following the Burgess Institute on social media, be sure to do that so that you can stay in the loop on all future programming and activities. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all the things. If you are an alumnus or friend of MSU and you're watching tonight's presentation, I'd highly encourage you to consider joining eShip Connect. It's the brand new hub that we just launched for alumni and student mentoring. It is part of MSU Connect, the platform that MSU as an institution has launched over the last half year. And eShip Connect is the hub for our student entrepreneurs that are part of our program at the Burgess Institute, and also those that are friends of the institution or alumni of MSU that are interested in this topic, or maybe just want to help give back and connect with our students. It's really simple. If you're already part of MSU Connect, you can actually just browse the different hubs and find eShip Connect there. And if you're looking for a URL or a space, can't find it, you can contact us directly and we'll give you that invitation. But if you're watching tonight, rest assured, we'd love for you to join us there. It's going to be the platform for student alumni mentoring as part of our program going forward. We just hosted our first startup weekend of this academic year. This past weekend, we had nearly 100 students participate over 36 hours in creating a venture from the concept to pitching it 36 hours later. And we have 3 more scheduled for the rest of the year in November, in February of 2021, and April of 2021. The plan is right now for all those experiences to be completely virtual. So silver lining here, it's allowed us to extend invitation to alumni across the globe, really, who have maybe in the past not been able to travel to East Lansing for these events, but now from the comfort of home with a laptop can mentor some of our student teams really conveniently. So this past weekend, I think Paul can correct me, but we had nearly 25 mentors involved in supporting our students and helping coach them on the ideas that they're creating real time. Super fun, really exciting, great way for alumni to get involved without much of a time commitment. So if you are interested in that and you haven't done it before, or you want to do it this year, contact us or contact me directly, and we would welcome your participation in that. Super fun program. I want to mention too, again, go to eship.msu.edu. You can find information about our program and all the things that I'm mentioning tonight there. That's kind of our hub for all things eShip at Michigan State. I want to mention 1 or 2 formalities about tonight's program. We have turned off the chat feature for our attendees that are watching tonight, but you'll notice that the Q&A tab is functional. And that's where we recommend our attendees post the questions that they would like to be asked of our 3 panelists tonight. And if you see someone else post a question there and you find that question to be compelling and you are going to ask the same thing, or you would love to see that question asked, there's actually a feature where you can like it. And the more folks that are liking or kind of upvoting on a particular question, that'll tell my colleague Paul, the moderator for tonight, that that's a question that he should definitely ask our attendees. So go ahead and pay attention to that. Use the Q&A toggle to help ask questions. And we're going to hopefully have some time towards the latter half of tonight's conversation to ask some of those or do some of the Q&A. Lastly, I'll mention, and Paul's going to talk about this tonight, we hope to earmark a few minutes later this evening for those of you that kind of wish to stick around and ask a question and actually show your video and show your screen. And so stay tuned at the end of the hour tonight for myself or Paul to give instructions on how you can join us in a separate VIP room to talk more with our esteemed guest tonight. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, Paul Jakes, the Managing Director for Student Venture Creation here at the Burgess Institute, who will be tonight's moderator. So take it away, Paul.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, and welcome everybody to the second Innovate State of the Year. We had a great one last week, if some of you saw that one. And we have a great one tonight. I'm super excited. We have 3 individuals, 3 alumni, and we said before this that are coming from East Coast, West Coast, and Midwest. Tamara's physically in Texas, but offices in West Coast. So that's exciting. And the thing we want to talk about tonight is a lot about innovation and investments. This is a lot of their background. One thing we like to start out, as always, is just a brief introduction. So if all of you on my screen, I see Kelly first, Chris, and then Tamara. Kelly, if you want to start and just intro yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm a general partner at Edison Partners. I've been at the firm 6 years. I'm a recovering operator. I spent majority of my career in startups and high growth companies, kind of pre-revenue to 100 million. At Edison, I've worn many hats, from kind of operating partner to investing both in our enterprise software sector, as well as now more active on the fintech front. We can later get into a little more about Edison, but we're a growth equity firm that invests mainly in Eastern US.
Kelly, I hope you're not a recovering operator. We need all the operators we can get. I'm Chris Thomas. I'm the co-founder and partner for a firm called Assembly Ventures based in Detroit and Berlin. So we're the first transatlantic mobility fund in the world, focused uniquely on opportunities, early stage companies that move people, goods across differentiated opportunities in in data, in different ways in which we're going to see those things move around the world, logistics, supply chain, and the like. Prior to this, and kind of going back through my history, I was right out of undergraduate, an investment banker, and I was a U.S. Army soldier, and I got my MBA at Yale, and then I founded another firm called Fontanalis, which was the first firm that was uniquely focused on mobility in the world. Was there for about 10 years and had the pleasure of leading some of the largest exits, or being a part of some of the largest exits in the history of the mobility space so far. And a long time ago, I was a working class kid from Waterford, and I'm very lucky to be a Michigan State grad. I'm so excited to talk about that too.
Hi, I'm Tamara Steffens. I am living in Texas now, but my office is based in San Francisco. I'm with M12, which is Microsoft's venture fund. We invest approximately, I guess we're gonna near 800, 900 million out of our fund. We do a vintage fund every year. My original company was bought by Microsoft 5 years ago, so I ran biz dev for the Office 365 organization, productivity, for 5 years before joining the venture fund. And prior to that, I did 5 other startups, 2 of which I took public and 4 of which I sold. So I'm excited to be on the other side of the table, helping founders find money and looking at great tech. We focus on SaaS, enterprise SaaS, mostly cybersecurity, and a lot of deep tech stuff that's far futures. But I'm super excited to be here. I'm an MSU grad from 1985, go green. And although I went to grad school, I never mentioned my grad school because the only thing that matters is undergrad.
Awesome to have you guys. I really appreciate it. The backgrounds of all of you are amazing. So love sharing your knowledge with everybody. One of the things we really like to start out, and Chris, you started to dive into this one. So let's start with you. Tell us about you at MSU. Maybe even what you remember, even at the day that you got here. Where did you live? What did you major in? And what did you think you were going to be?
Wow, that's a great question. When I came to MSU, I thought for sure I was going to be a lawyer. I was convinced, and I was a double major at James Madison College, which I'm a proud alum. Although I dropped one of those majors, I worked probably 20 hours a week my entire time undergraduate. And I did 2 degrees in 5, one from James Madison and one from the Social Sciences School in Economics. But I think it was my sophomore year, and I was working for the student government, and the corporate counsel for the university was asking me, like, Chris, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I want to get my degrees in kind of liberal arts and go right to law school, and I'm excited about going into government service someday. And he said, well, what kind of law do you want to practice? And I was like, well, I don't want to practice law. I'm like, that's just the path. That's just the way I have to go. And he's like, well, you're an idiot. That's not the path. You need to do something you like to do. There's lots of different ways to serve. And that one conversation with a very astute, blunt man took me on a different path where I dropped constitutional democracy, picked up economics, and then, as I said, was there for 5 years. Over the course of those 5 years, was very eager to experience the rest of the United States, if you will. So I remember my junior year, I sent out 144 resumes to New York because I knew I wanted to go to New York, but I had no idea what that even meant. And I was applying to advertising firms and the Fed and banking firms. And I think I got 2 interviews and one of them stuck. And then I had an internship with UBS in New York in energy. And then the following summer in San Francisco in technology. And then I took a full-time offer as an investment banking analyst with UBS's technology sell side group, covering, hardware, software, communications equipment, digital media. But that experience at Michigan State, like just the quality of the programs that I was a part of, and we all know you can get many things from the experience at Michigan State. I mean, we all have friends, I think, that choose to not be on webinars like this. And those of you that are listening, you're choosing to be here because you're taking something away. You're passionate about entrepreneurship. You're passionate about some part of what this experience can be. But I really like what Tamara said, like, I only talk about Michigan State. It just gave me such an amazing grounding in the things that I had the potential to be, and a wonderful community from which to build from. And so I'll stop there. And I lived in Case Hall, which wasn't half bad, but I really enjoyed it.
Well, and I think the students do think that, getting into a major, it's traditional that you get into this, and this, and that's a very non-traditional way. And I think that's a lot of people's story. So great, I appreciate that. Tamara, do you want to share yours?
Yeah, mine is even, I think, crazier, but I was gonna be a nurse. Oh my God. My mom was a nurse, so I started out, but I never told her I changed majors within like 2 weeks. So I just was going to be a math major. I thought, oh, I'm good at math. I'll just be a math major. I ended up switching that to the business school and marketing and finance, and kind of have stayed in that path, which is, but I did exactly what Chris said. I actually just knew I was going to move to New York. I'm like, okay, well, that's where all the banks are, so that's what I'm going to go do. And I will say, I think Michigan State made me fearless. I never thought I couldn't do it. I just thought, okay, this is what you do next. And none of my friends, no one moved home after school. I mean, I tried to get my daughter. She graduated from Michigan State in December of 2019. I tried to get her to move home. No luck. But it runs in the family. So never moved home, moved to New York City, went to school there and worked. So I did my MBA part-time. Took me forever, but I finished it. And I still look back at my education at Michigan State and think, this was what made me, right? It gave me a very fearless attitude. And I still have season football tickets, and I live in Texas on the weekends, in San Francisco during the week. So that's how much I love the university and what it did for me. And I think the Midwest as a whole will breed great entrepreneurs. So I think, Kelly, you're right for staying focused there and on the East Coast, because I think Midwesterners live to work, and on the West Coast, maybe they work to live, as they say. I think that's a saying. I don't know.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to hopefully use those tickets soon. I'm glad we're back, so that's good. Kelly?
Sure. So I joined, I showed up on campus in the fall of 1990 and was pre-med. I wanted to be a vet. And I also went to Michigan State sight unseen. I am from Boston. I loved Big Ten football. I was obsessed with Saturday football. There was a Notre Dame Michigan State game with an ad of, back then the campaign was like excellence in diversity, and they showed the campus on the commercial breaks. And I was almost going to Penn State, and I convinced my parents somehow to let me go, but I never went until orientation. And but it was exactly as shown on TV. And I was willing to. I grew up in a small town parochial school. Like I wanted to take that leap and do something big and different. I love the fearless theme because that's exactly how I was. And but then after a couple of weeks of like biology and all these math classes, and I was like studying all the time and I wasn't having fun, and like locked down in Holden Hall with my pre-med major, and I like, this is terrible. I'm not having the experience that I wanted. This diverse, lots of different social and academic activities. So I changed my major to comms, which ridiculous. And it was a much easier load, and it allowed me to take on all of these different extracurriculars. And so I had a full experience. But I will say that, and then I thought I wanted to be governor of Massachusetts, and I worked on Bill Weld's campaign, and I was using all my public relations and public affairs stuff from the comm school. And then, but that parlayed into going back to Boston and working in PR for tech companies. And I was so drawn to product and innovation and earlier stage companies. And early in my career, from there, I worked at Lotus and IBM, and it just took so much from that to start to get on the startup kick. But every next, I definitely learned some things there that I was applying early in my career. But I think the non-academic experience was in the diversity of, I mean, the good people of the Midwest, and people were friendly, and I had a chip on my shoulder from Boston, and everybody just kind of like softened me up. Um, I got involved in everything, and it was really exciting. But that involvement, honestly, was not really related to my major as much as it was everything else. And that was really good for me, being from a small town. What I see now with what Burgess does, and the breadth of academic plus experience, access to experts in the fields where folks are studying, the entrepreneurial angle. I really lacked practical application as an undergrad, and that's all I see. I mean, we had an intern this summer, and he's still with us 2 days a week from Michigan State. And like, I know he had some practical experiences of practical application before he even came to join us for the summer. So that was something that was missing when I was there, that I'm so appreciating being a part of, and hopefully giving back in a small way now.
So that segues into a really good question I was going to have for all of you. Is, you're right, with us, we're about a little over 8 years old. We're not teaching the students to be entrepreneurs, but we're teaching them kind of innovation, the language, as they walk through. Did you know anything about venture capital, private equity, innovation when you start? You guys are all in amazing careers and have backgrounds and exits and everything. Did you know anything? That's to anyone.
I never even took a finance class. Like, I just attached myself to CFOs when I started working in companies, and general counsels. Those two were like my favorite people. I needed to sponge off of them. But it wasn't until my first startup, which was actually a company that Microsoft bought, that we raised a lot of money, and I was part of that process. But I hadn't even considered that, because I was working for public company for 5 or 6 years before that. So that was all new. But then you take it one step further and go work inside one of these crazy firms, and you're like, whoa, I thought I knew because I have relationships with my board, and I've raised money, and you think but once you're inside, like, it's really a whole other world. So I could say that I almost felt like a complete rookie 6 years ago when I joined Edison.
It's a great question. I think for me, as I mentioned, I went right to investment banking. And so the buy side was this mythical place when you're on the sell side that you hear about, but you're not really allowed to go. And so for those of you that maybe don't understand the vernacular, sell side is kind of investment banking, where you're putting together deals, follow-ons, pipes, IPOs. The buy side is where all three of us sit, where you're investing in companies, you're acquiring equity, you're then helping them grow in a variety of ways. And so I left that, and as I mentioned, very unexpectedly, joined the US Army. And I think to your point, Paul, about like, what did you know? All I knew at all these major junction points of my life is what I was passionate about at that moment. And then I did a bit of a survey course and said, what are the things I can do to execute on that passion? So when I lived in San Francisco during 9/11, and when the Iraqi war began, my brother decided to join the Army, and I decided I was going to do it with him. And I made that decision. I was going to do the Army. I was going to quit banking. I was going to go to the war, and I did. And it was an amazing experience for me. And then I knew I wanted to go to grad school, and I applied to all these other, these grad schools that people tell you should apply to. But like Kelly, not really understanding in some ways what they were, or what they were all about. Again, coming from first in my family to go to college, was lucky enough to be accepted at Yale. An amazing program there. And then when I was there, honest to God, like I could not tell you outside of investing in startups what a venture capitalist was. But I knew that I wanted to be in Detroit, and I knew I wanted to have the biggest impact possible. And so I actually went to Ford Motor Company, and it's too long of a story for this venue. But I had the opportunity to kind of, network and finagle, and I was able to found the first firm in the world investing in mobility with Bill Ford and 3 others, and then was there for a decade investing in some of the biggest companies in the space. But the real passion behind all that, or the reason why it happened was I wanted to do something of impact. And when I work with young companies, I just want to block and tackle. Like, I want to be aspirational, but I want to achieve things every day. And so it was that I knew where I wanted to be, and I knew what kind of impact I wanted to have. And then I just looked at the choices in front of me, and I grabbed the highest ring that I could reach. And that's advice I would give anybody. I think sometimes people, they grab the one that's comfortable or that they know, but if they step back and kind of say what and why, man, does it help, kind of align that next step.
Thanks, Chris. Chris, I didn't know that about you, and thanks for your service.
No, of course. It was my pleasure.
Tamara?
Yeah, my situation was a little bit different. How did I get into venture? Really, I've only been on the investing side for the last year and a half. I did a lot of Microsoft. Our business development team actually does our M&A. So when I got acquired, I was on the other side of the house, and we actually run our M&A transactions out of the biz dev group. And so moving into the venture side was a good fit. I did count the other day. Somebody said, how many rounds had you raised at all the startups you were at? And it was 16. So I think I know every venture capitalist in the Valley twice over by raising funds and being friends, right? So I started on Wall Street working for Chemical Bank, which is now JP Morgan Chase, and then getting recruited into tech through a friend of mine that went to Michigan. Sorry.
Oh.
But he actually knew Scott McNeely. And for those of you who don't know, Scott was the founder of Sun, and he grew up in Grosse Pointe. And so we knew each other. He knew my brother. He knew some other people. And I say my life is luck, timing, and skill. I kind of fell into tech early when they were getting out of Stanford and developed some technology that they wanted to bring onto trading floors. And they thought this tech was really cool. And I had a good background in trading floors and trading from working at the bank. And so I got into tech, and I left Sun and went to Silicon Graphics in the early days. And a bunch of the guys from Silicon Graphics went and started Netscape. And I went to an early stage company called software.com, which figured out how to do email for like AOL and the likes of big companies to be able to do personal email. And all my friends laughed at me and said, "You're going to go work for a company that sells email? Like, that seems so dumb. We have voicemail." Anyway, it all fell into place. And my second startup was a company called Boingo, a guy by the name of Sky Dayton, who started Earthlink. For you younger students, you won't know what that is, but it was back in the day when there was something called an internet service provider. And Sky had this idea, hey, we're going to connect all these Wi-Fi networks together and have single sign-on to Wi-Fi. And that was super fun. And both of those companies ended up going public. And then I recapped a company, and then started a couple of new ones. And then my last one, I sold one of my companies to Apple, one to IBM, and then the last one to Microsoft. So, and I've been here. Everybody thought you're going to leave in 5 minutes and start another company. And that probably will still happen. But for now, I'm leading investments at Microsoft's venture fund, and I love it. I love being on the other side of the table. I love seeing, young entrepreneurs, new founders, and really experienced ones as well. So I probably personally talk to 10 different companies a week, if not more. And it's the best job ever. Looking at new tech, it couldn't be any more fun.
Awesome. Well, and going into that, and then you guys, your amazing backgrounds. This is awesome. The big thing is getting into investments. So let's talk more on the students. I see the students every day. I see them in the very beginning stages of just bar napkin. They're coming in with just an idea. But some of them do get to that point. We've had some that did get venture capital. A lot of them get angel, but a lot of them are in that gap or that really early stage where they need money. This could be a big question, you guys, but should they? Should they get an investment? Because this is, and I have a couple of my own companies too, and it's always a big question. Now I'm talking to venture capitalists, so I'm trying to figure out if this is a good question, but when they're out to reach out for money, should they give away some equity? Should they get an investment?
I'll jump on this.
Okay,
I'll jump
go
on
ahead,
this.
Chris.
No, please, you jump in this time. I'm happy to.
You know what? My answer is always no. Just don't. wait as long as you possibly can, sleep on couches, do friends and family. I mean, you're going to end up giving up some equity maybe in a friends and family round, but the closer you can get to an MVP, a product, a solution that's viable, that actually has a couple of users, even better, a tiny bit of revenue, you'll end up giving so much less away of your company if you can show the value and show the solution. So I say, starve as long as you can. And I know you're already in college and you're already eating ramen noodles and barely making it, but what's another couple years of doing that and trying to figure it out and get to product market fit a little bit further. It's never going to be perfect. You're going to have to raise at some point, but go as long as you possibly can.
Totally agree. I love that. I know I'm in good company when that's the first answer. So I was actually on a webinar earlier this morning, and I feel like some entrepreneurs, they think of venture capital as like, that's the goal. And you're absolutely right. Like, people ask me, how much should I raise? I'm like, as little as possible. Now, there's a reason you make that trade, because you have a chance to take that capital and go much faster because you have the resources to really grow. But my brother, who lives in Northern Michigan, he started a direct consumer coffee company, and he has grown 30% month over month. It's unbelievable, like what he's doing with like this little business he's put together. And we've started having a real conversation around, Chris, how should I think about capitalization? Should I just try to, fund this all off revenues? And the answer is yes. Does it make sense to do kind of a small friends and family round, as you said, with a safe? I would highly recommend kind of an instrument that allows for valuation down the road. And I believe it does. But then once you start having real revenue, and this is kind of looking at more product business, but if you have real revenue, debt financing on those sales slips and on your inventory is very real. So there's all different ways to go about it. But I think that advice to hold off as long as you can, get to a point where you're not going to be giving away so much upside. And you don't need to. You can run really lean for a long time. I think that's great advice.
I agree, 100%. We really focus on, we're growth equity investors, but we are typically investing at Series A or Series B. And, the Series A companies, for growth equity to be the first institutional capital in like 70% of our investments, that's exactly the profile of that founder, entrepreneur who just bootstrapped and, clawed their way to repeatability, right? And then they're ready for our capital. So we love just capital responsible mindset in a CEO and an entrepreneur. And, at the end of the day, you want to be making mistakes and learning early on not on expensive capital, right? Yeah. So yeah, I think we're all aligned on that point.
The one additional point I would make is sometimes I'm in conversations with the early stage entrepreneurs, and they're like, I'm only selling 5% of the company. I'm only selling 5% of the equity. And I'm like, okay, I have to own 95% after this round's done. And I'm like, okay, what is 95% of zero? And, and they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, what's 60% of $1 billion? Which one would you rather have? And so, don't get fixated on necessarily that percentage. Think of each of these as unique negotiations where you're making a trade, hopefully with an investor that brings more than just capital, but is going to help you make what you do own, your percentage and that of all of your shareholders, of the highest value possible, because you're putting together a great team and approach it that way.
It's good advice. The notion of, you can spot the professional fundraiser founder a mile away, right? Yeah. And the conversation, it's never the right conversation. It's the, I'm only willing to give up this much. I need to have a valuation of X. Right. And as soon as that round's closed, they're thinking about the next one, right? I don't know, not a great look, I think. But.
Great advice. One of the things I always like to talk about too is team. When the students come to me and build a team, it's interesting because a lot of them will come to me with about 5 people. And I always say to them, and some of my colleagues probably say that I'm repeating myself, but I always say it's like roommates. One of you is not going to like each other. I say that all the time. It's going to happen. 5 people is too big. So I try to work on, when you do get that type of investment, what are you really looking at? Obviously, you're looking for a good idea, but how much is team? Is team a big part of it in the investment side?
I think it's a huge part. I mean, it's what we look at. I mean, admittedly, somebody who's succeeded in the past and has a successful exit is going to attract the highest caliber venture firms in the Valley. But usually that experience also helps them bring a team, right? And they know what they're bringing. But early stage, when you're really talking, this is my first idea, my first company, I've got to get it out there. I agree with you. You should keep it lean and understand what culture you want to build right from the beginning. It's really hard to fix it later. So think about inclusive culture, diversity, all the things that you want. If you believe in those things, think about it from day one, because it's really hard a year in or 2 years in to claw back and try to figure out how to fix it. But yeah, the more experience, the better, right? I mean, I had 2 founders come to me this week. The idea was one of the better ideas I've ever seen. And I'm like, hey, who's going to write the code? Like, who's got well, we don't have that yet. I'm like, okay, go find a technical founder or some engineers that could actually own this, because your idea is amazing, but if you're going to just source it out to, Joe Smith on the corner to write your code, I don't think anybody's going to invest in you, right? So go find some technical resources that can help you build this and then come back. So yeah, the team is really important. You got to have good tech, right? I mean, no matter what you're doing, you got to have somebody that understands how to develop the product. And then, but you can't have too many chiefs either, Yeah. Only one cook in the kitchen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think at our stage, we spend a lot of time on team. Has the CEO been able to attract a certain caliber of talent that reflects maybe their gaps and some self-awareness, right? And we're always looking at stage appropriate talent, domain appropriate talent, model appropriate talent, to in the business, and what do we need to go hire with the round. And so the expectation of a totally complete executive team is not really there, though often we do see that. But it's a little different than the earlier stage, where you might be a little less, maybe domain's really important, and understanding the customer more than someone who has a ton of early stage, building experience. So that could be useful too, or maybe it's the business model, right? So I think all of those things are important in the team that the founder or CEO surrounds themselves with, but you prioritize different things at different stages.
Totally agree. Yeah, I mean, the team is everything in my mind. I'll take an A team with a B idea that I know can be shaped over a B team with an A idea today in T0, because you want that team just to be able to run and figure things out as they go. I really love, Tamara, what you said. I mean, culture starts right now. I mean, if you got to set that culture in the very beginning, and if you don't, it will get away from you. That's so important. Finding founders that bring strengths that you don't have. Like, I'm really good at a couple things. If you ask my wife, she'd say probably a couple less. I'm really bad at most everything else. So I want to build a team of just amazing people. And that goes for my founding team, my hires, my investors, my advisors. As you think about building out that group that's there to bring value, and they're going to create value for themselves as well. But it's each of those building blocks should bring something a little different. And the last advice I would give with regard to your team, especially for founders out there, is make yourself replaceable. And what I mean by that is, not in day one, but one of the best CEOs I ever met was a London, England-based company focused on multimodal payment for differentiated types of transit. And he always assured me he was the worst salesman in the company. He was the worst entrepreneur in the company. He was by far the best. But in our very first meeting, I talked to him about, tell me about team and how you're going to build your team. He goes, well, I'm excited to replace me. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he goes, well, listen, I'm going to do my very best in any position I'm in. But as soon as we find, as soon as we find someone better, let's hire her and put her in that position. And let's continue find ways to level up. That is the mark of a great entrepreneur. And it's someone who's going to always, it's going to set that culture. It's going to constantly improve. And you're going to have a leader there that's a true, like, he's a great leader, or she's a great leader because they're a great leader or follower. And that's something you don't see very often. Whenever I see it, I grab right into it.
Right away, I'm sure judge of character is always good. You guys can probably see if somebody's going to be moldable or not. Any stories of individuals on the very opposite end where they know everything?
We've been signed term sheet in diligence and have seen the wrong characteristics and style issues. Seen style issues with a CEO, and everything else was checking out. Confirmatory diligence. The team reflected the CEO's style, so that was an issue. But the biggest issue of all was that CEO style. And it's interesting, we have about as many operators in our partnership, former operators, as we have folks who have been investing their whole careers. And that experience, the folks who have been in companies and can really see what's not going to work from a team dynamic because they've lived all of this, and from an investor, kind of a board and a CEO dynamic, we find that the folks with the operating background are actually surfacing this to the rest of the team, that these issues that might surface in diligence around style and just the mindset. And we'll pass if we see that. It could be the greatest company, best deal ever, and we'll pass.
But I know that's always an issue. And real quickly too, and we'll get into some student questions here too. I start seeing something rolling in. What's the climate of investment with the pandemic? Has things totally changed? Is it worse? Is it the same? How is it?
I thought it was going to be a train wreck, and we quickly just pulled together. We do a vintage fund, so our fund starts every July 1st, and so end of March, when we knew things were really not going to be great, we pulled together the last of our fund from last year and just used our dry powder to make sure that all of our portfolio companies were shored up and had a year of capital, and really just dug in to try to make sure everyone was okay. It has been, as far as finding new investments, it's been more difficult because we're used to meeting companies in person and seeing the tech and meeting the team and testing the technology more. But surprisingly, it's gone pretty well. We're slightly behind where we were as far as investing from last year, but I almost think we're going to end up about the same. So from an investment perspective, I think we're in good shape. The companies, it's one of two things. Either they had tailwinds, like COVID really helped them, some of our healthcare investments, some of our online productivity solutions have just taken off. But we've had some longer sales cycle. Enterprise SaaS software is definitely taking longer. Budgets are being cut a little bit. It's not drastic. It's not nearly as bad as what I thought it was going to be, but they're, about half of the companies are slower sales cycles, still in good shape. The other half have had, tailwinds in their favor. So, and that's been really surprising. So I at least right now, so far so good. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I feel like in the we're having consistent experience, and certainly with enterprise software space, there's kind of a stage view when you look at where we are today versus last year, like where seed, Series A and B deals are kind of down year to date versus 19, but picking up. Sorry.
Well, you saw my cat earlier, so.
And you're muted, Kelly.
You're
Just,
muted,
I
Kelly.
think the moderator has to unmute you.
Oh, she may have to mute you. Oh, there we go.
Okay. The M&A market's picking up. But when you look at sector,
Yeah.
like 2020 versus 19, and we look, let's say, at like a Series B profile of deals, enterprise SaaS is, is about the same amount, and so is fintech. But then like digital health is up like 50%, right? So those are like kind of the three sectors where we play. So, I mean, everybody kind of felt a slowdown, but there's still a lot of capital out there. And I think we knew everybody in kind of Q4 would pick their heads up again, buyers, companies raising, assuming they were beating their austerity plans or they had the tailwinds, right?
No, I totally agree. I mean, I think sector is what really matters when you think about, are there companies that have had very silver lining kind of experiences over the last 6 months? And I keep hearing, and I agree with it, we've seen in some ways 6 years of kind of innovation and acceptance around the future of technology enablement over the last 6 months. And we've really seen a lot of these themes pick up. So for us, we're focused on Series A, Series B, and we're investing in the physical and digital movement of people, goods, data, and energy. So you think about large efficiencies for fleet, for different ways in which we're looking at
supply chain resiliency, right?
huge, huge.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, the geopolitical aspects of what this has brought in, because there's multiple layers to this. Like our entire fund is premised on the idea that there is and will continue to be a bifurcation with China, and that's privacy or lack thereof, differentiated tech stacks, but the return of the domestic supply chain, Kelly, to your point, and the need to make sure it's secure, and this belief in the industrial West, that places like Detroit, Pittsburgh, Stuttgart, Munich, but also Tokyo, Busan, Bangalore, the places that have manufactured the world for the last 100 years can do it for the next 100 if they make the right technology and partnership decisions. And it's really going to be interesting to see how those sectors evolve, but technology and opportunities for robotics, opportunities for differentiated fulfillment, just aspects to those sectors, we're seeing unbelievable companies kind of coming into the fore. And I think we're going to continue to see that over the next decade in this bespoke sector.
Yeah, totally agree.
So we're good for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Let me jump to, there's an outside question here. Can you talk about how to build a team from the beginning, but not have your idea just stolen from the start? This is always a concern of the students.
I don't know. It's a tough topic for Microsoft because people are always worried. We don't do that. We never do that. We partner way more than we build. So but I would say, look, if your idea is differentiated and you understand how to execute on it, that's all the more reason not to take a lot of money right away. Like take the time to really build this idea out so you can create your own moat, whatever that moat is. It could be time, could be the way you've designed the product. But I would say, don't get too stressed about that, and focus on building your moat and doing it different. And don't do a repeatable idea, right? If you're just going to build something somebody else already has, well, that's a different issue, right? So hopefully you come up with something that's unique and you really take the time to build it out and get some trusted advisors early on that can help you execute against that. But, paranoia will kill you. Just out execute everybody else and get going.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So another one here, somebody asked, tips for graduating and making a successful move to the Bay Area. If you were recently graduated and moving your startup to the Bay Area, where would you go and how would you maximize your time to increase your chances of success?
Well, the good news is that rents are down, so you'll be paying less for your apartments. I mean, this one thing I would strongly recommend, and it depends like where you are in your academic career, but just you have to go. You have to go and see. And so just like Tamara and myself, we were like, I wanted to go to a financial center. And that happened to be New York. For my second internship, I had a choice between New York and San Francisco. I chose San Francisco because I wanted to see there. do everything you can, send those 144 resumes to institutions or entities that will let you go and be a part of that for your summer internship, that time that you can choose to do that. But it's so interesting how serendipity plays such a big role, and just being in those places and engaging with people from those places, and putting yourself out there to wanting to be there. I mean, you'll find yourself there, I have no doubt, but you have to take all those steps and just keep at it, in my opinion.
I wrote down luck, timing, and skill, that Tamara said.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm still a big fan of the Bay Area. I still think it brings a lot of great entrepreneurs. It is changing. You can have a great startup in Salt Lake City, Utah, and Austin, Texas, and Detroit, Michigan. So that is better. I think COVID, the slight silver lining, may even allow more of that. But if you believe that the talent and the energy is in the Bay Area, and you want to move your company there because you know that you want venture capitalists in that space or in that part of the country to invest in you, then move there. And you are absolutely right, Chris. Rents are down 25%, and I don't think they're going up anytime soon. I do think you'll be able to do a little bit of a hybrid model. We have a lot of companies now. One of them I'm invested in has some of the senior execs and head of sales in the Bay Area, but they've moved the whole company to Florida for cost and burn, to lower their burn, because it's much easier to manage sales and operations and things in Florida. And it's been a fantastic move. They did it 2 years ago. It saved them a ton of money, but their key execs live there. Other companies do a lot of their development in, Croatia and Ukraine and in, India. So, you find a happy mix, but take the risk and move. You're only young once, assuming you don't have, if this was from a student, assuming you've got a great idea, a good company, you've got it going, you probably don't have kids yet, now's the time.
That's
I think
what I always say.
the
You have a
prioritization.
mortgage, you don't have kids. Time to go.
They say you got to prioritize, what's the driver, right? For where you think you might want to set up that company. Access to capital is in many places now, and the cost of starting a business and setting up a business doesn't have to be as high as some of those what we call served markets versus, we tend to get really excited about underserved markets and people that are doing things between the coasts or in sort of less kind of obvious startup ecosystems. So I think it's, if it's talent, like in the world of COVID, that may or may not be an issue. You may not have to actually be there. There are great investors, all over the US and in different ecosystems and networks and talent. So
And
just got to prioritize.
I was going to say, Paul, the only thing I'd mention here is that don't just go there, though, because it's where people went before. We can't predict the future, but we can invent it. And we can invent it wherever we choose to invent it. And so, I've been in downtown Detroit for the last 10 years. I'm raising my 2 boys here with my wife. I'm founding my current firm in Detroit and Berlin in a very counterintuitive way. We believe we can thread together the industrial and the innovation centers of the West to create some really interesting partnerships, connections, and companies. You can do these things that leverage assets that other people are undervaluing. And so just think critically about, what it is you want to do. There's amazing companies being founded everywhere. And it's a question of where do you want to have that impact?
Matters their motivation.
Yeah.
So next question, this is kind of 2 in 1. So what's the key to selling an operational background to an investment firm? If a student or somebody has that background, maybe getting into something like that.
You mean an operator making a change, making a transition into investing?
That's what it sounds like, yes.
Yeah. We value the operating experience a lot. I think you can have a lot of empathy for entrepreneurs and CEOs when you've worked with them in their companies, know what they're going through. I think, these folks tend to depending on what their experiences have been, but we've also found stronger salesmanship skills and things from a networking and interpersonal relationship development perspective. If you have a certain operating background in a particular industry, particular domain, go find the investors that invest in that domain. And hopefully the stage of the company that you've invested, that you've worked in, may be aligned with where they invest. So you got to find some commonality. For me, it was totally opportunistic. I worked inside an Edison company, and my board member, also a Spartan, Chris Sugden, who's managing partner at my firm, he was my board member, and I had left that company and reconnected with him in the Princeton area, having moved here years later. And he's like, "You got to come work for us. Work with us. We need more operators. We need more operator mindset." So we knew each other and had worked together a little bit, and I thought, become an investor? What? Like, it just never occurred to me, but it's the best thing. I've never held a job that somebody's held before me. And, this was just another one of those. So it was the best thing, but I worked in growth stage companies, in go-to-market leadership positions. And the primary use of capital when we invest in growth stage companies is sales and marketing. So I was able to draw that connection, and Chris saw that. So find that type of connection is helpful.
I think for me, like I'm sold. If you're a great operator, you don't have to sell me. I mean, I'm excited to work with you. And my two partners with our firm that we've put together, Felix Scheufinland and Jessica Robinson. Felix is in Berlin, Jessica here in Detroit. Like Jessica's a pure operator. She's set up, 8 global platforms with Techstars for major corporations. She's ran on the ground operations for Zipcar. She, was in charge of kind of city solutions group for a major US OEM, deploying those around the country, around the continent. She was set up a new educational initiative here in Detroit. And Felix's background, he stood up Groupon South America, took it from 2 to 1,500 people, and then was the managing director at startup Autobahn, advising all of pan-European auto, and then Deutsche Bahn, advising all of pan-European transportation with a focus on rail. He had done some investment, and there's some metrics you can look at there from a track record perspective, but they know this sector cold in the North American and the European marketplace. And this is a place where I've played for the last decade as well. But what I love most about them is that they are just subject matter experts, and they know how to build businesses. Like, I look, Kelly, at you and Tamara, you guys have built businesses. You're going to know what those businesses need more than a guy who has his calculator function on his iPhone up. No disrespect, but like, you want to have someone who can do both.
Yeah, and I think just having raised money, right? Up and down, right? Like, have you recapped a company? Have you raised a round? How have you raised it? Have you done multiple up rounds? Who did you raise from? Who are your references? So you've got to have some experience. We traditionally don't hire operators at M12. We hire venture experts, people with venture experience. I was actually the first operator to come into the firm, but we're only 4 years old. And I do think we have changed our tune as well, and that we're leaning in on that. Now, we're fortunate that we're Microsoft. Our firm, our M12, is only 25 people, so it's quite small, but 15 of those people are actually portfolio development. So they work on helping our portfolio companies succeed, either getting into Microsoft accounts or getting into Microsoft as a whole. So we have operators that are non-investors. So there's sometimes, depending on how large the venture firm is, there may be operating roles that are non-investment roles where you can get in and learn the ropes and kind of learn the investment side as well. If not, get your internships, or when you go to get your master's, or go work for a private equity firm, an investment bank, a venture firm, get some experience, because you're going to need it. You're going to need to be able to do financial modeling and understand exit strategies and valuations and addressable market. You need to know those things. You can't just walk in and figure it out. So I mean, you do need some experience. So go raise some money and have a couple successful companies, and then come to the venture side.
It's like your golf game. You can't just go out on the course and just start swinging clubs.
I do sometimes though, depends on what day it is.
Let me jump to this question, and you guys were getting to that. For someone aspiring to find a career in venture capital, what are some things that you can do outside of school to help you set yourself apart from the crowd? Like, what do you guys look for?
Yeah, I mean, go find an internship, go work for a venture fund, go to private equity, go to.
Is that easy enough though? Is it easy enough to get into a venture fund, or you look for other to have some prior experience before that? It's
a needle in a haystack. At a big venture fund, there are smaller venture funds that you can do summer internships, you know, paid, not paid. Go, and there's really good classes too. I mean, a couple of our early in career talent took a class. It's an online class out of Berkeley that's venture investing, right? And it's not terribly expensive. I want to say it's, you know, a couple $1,000s, maybe even less, where you can actually do some online courses in understanding venture and investing and valuations. And that is a great thing to go do. So whatever you can do to build your resume, to understand, to sell yourself in the space, if you don't have a good finance background, or maybe you were marketing or comms or something and you want to go get that, there are ways where you can build your resume with limited funds, if you're not going to go get your MBA, to capitalize on that. And if not, you know, unfortunately, I'm not a big believer in the MBA, but it definitely gives you a foot in the door at a venture fund.
Pays off. I mean, it pays off from the context of, had I not started my own venture fund, I'm quite confident I wouldn't be in venture. So that's another way you can go. But I would actually step back and I would say, everything that you're doing, you're a student, you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, you know, senior. Every choice that you make going forward is going to lead to another choice, or it's not. Everything that you do, you should be excellent at, or try to be excellent at. And if you are, you're going to have more choices. So at your stage in your career, you know, that decision tree is huge. You can go in any direction you want. For the three of us on this call, like, we've made choices, and, you know, those decisions have gotten narrower. We've decided to go down a path, I think a really wonderful one in all of our cases, based on what I've heard tonight. But if you are excellent at the things you choose to do, and you're choosing to do them, you're signing up for those classes, you're signing up for that job, like, you know, the boohoo stuff that you hear a lot of people give themselves, get rid of all that. You know, go out and be excellent and choose things that you want to do, or that you just want to learn from, and you're going to fail at, and that's okay. But if you do that, you're going to be in a position to move on and do those things that you want to do. Like, I look at guys with CFAs, God bless them, I don't have one. Man, is that a dedicated path? But they're saying to themselves or herself, I'm going to have this accreditation because I want to know that. I want to be excellent. And so look at it through that lens. And that's what we do as Spartans. I think we have all the potential to be excellent, and then it comes back to the man or the woman to make that choice every day.
Great advice from all of you. Really appreciate that. I could sit in here and talk to you guys all day, and maybe we'll have to schedule up a call just for me, because I have tons of questions too. To get this much expertise in an hour is awesome. I really appreciate you guys. We're coming up on our time. I didn't get to some of the questions that others have asked. Hopefully the individuals here can stick around that have those questions. Hopefully we'll get you guys to stick around for another 15 minutes or so. It looks like that has been posted over here. Our Zoom is up for the students. Is that right, Chris? I see the happy hour coming up with the passcode eShip.
Yeah, for those watching, if they look to the chat function, our colleague Aubrey has posted the content and the information for the Zoom room, and the passcode is eShip.
Great. Thank you all.
Hi, and welcome to The Mindset. I'm your host, Desiree Melfi-Botso, and the Burgess Institute Student Success and Advising Manager at Michigan State University. Today's topic is the minor in Entrepreneurship and Innovation. Sometimes we hear the word entrepreneurship and we think, of course, starting a business. Well, the Burgess Institute definitely has amazing and great resources for venture creation. It's not just about venture creation. It's about developing and sharpening your entrepreneurial mindset. See, we think that you can learn and hone the skills to be an entrepreneur. We believe thinking like an entrepreneur is something that can be taught if you're coachable, and we have a curriculum to teach you. You can pair them with any major, from accounting to zoology. You will gain an edge by refining skills that help you think in ways that are creative and innovative. Interested in learning the requirements? Perfect. Let's dive in. So the minor consists of 15 credit hours. Within those 15 credits, you take 2 required courses of 3 credits each. eShip 190, The Art of Starting, and the second course is dual listed CAS or AL 114, Creativity and Entrepreneurship. With the 9 remaining credits, you can choose from over 50 courses listed on the Burgess Institute website. Electives come from many disciplines and offer you the opportunity to gain a broad knowledge base while still doing that really great deep dive into your major. We believe this truly customizable approach to learning allows you to gain skills and confidence that's going to set you apart from your peers. In addition to the 15 credits, you need to complete 2 high-impact experiences. These are projects that take you out of the classroom and get you hands-on with the work. The step-by-step guide to complete the experiences is listed on the website, and there's also another recording much like this one available to you. So, are you excited about what you just learned? Are you ready to do something your future self will high five, fist bump, and thank you for? Then come join us. Hop over to the website and declare the minor today. If you have more questions, definitely make an appointment with me. I can't wait to talk more. This is Desiree Melfi-Bozzo with The Mindset. Until next time, Spartans, what's your venture?
The Hatchcast is sponsored in part by Spartan Innovations. Spartan Innovations provides startups spinning out of MSU's ecosystem the commercialization, support, and financial resources necessary to turn MSU research technologies into successful Michigan businesses.
Hatchcast is an ongoing collaboration.
Hatchcast is an ongoing collaboration.
This podcast was co-created
By Aaron Richard, Tyler Mihai,
And Kurt Krieger.
It is produced by the Burgess Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation,
in cooperation with the MSU
Foundation.
Gabe Hales,
And Justice Keach are our sound engineers and
editors. Our co-producers include Brandon Weaver,
Gabe Hales.
Justice Keach and Aaron Richard.
Original sound is created by Katya Gardina,
With help from Aubrey Haas,
Brandon Weaver,
Caitlin Setter,
Sydney Owinga,
Kurt Krieger, Tyler Mihai,
Gabriella Alum,
Jeff Smith,
Paul Jakes, Ken Smusiak.
Desiree Melfi-Bozzo,
Neil Kane,
and Lori Fisher.
If you have any questions or comments, please
Please feel free to reach out at
Hatchcast@msu.edu.
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 Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.